So, this year's Nobel Prize in Economics, it went to a team that solved what is, maybe, the biggest puzzle of all. Why are some countries incredibly rich, while others are just trapped in poverty? It's a question that honestly shapes everything, and in this explainer, we are going to dive into their incredible, game-changing answer.
The folks who cracked this code are Darren Acemoglu, Simon Johnson, and James A. Robinson. And for decades, these three have been like detectives on a mission, chasing down the answer to a question that has baffled economists for centuries. And the question they finally nailed down, it seems so simple, but it affects billions of lives every single day.
And that's it. That is the big one. Why is there this enormous persistent gap between wealthy nations and poor ones? It's a question that dictates global politics, it drives migration, and it quite literally determines the fate of billions of people.
I mean, the scale of this is just staggering. We're talking about a 30-fold difference in wealth. But here's the really crucial part. That gap isn't closing. The poorest countries are not catching up. In fact, you could argue they're falling even further behind.
So what gives? The first thing your brain probably jumps to is natural resources, right? Well, that theory just completely falls apart when you look at the real world. Take Venezuela. It's literally sitting on the largest oil reserves on the planet, but its economy is a total disaster. And then you have Ireland with almost no natural resources to speak of, and it's an economic powerhouse. So clearly it is not about what's buried in the ground.
And you know, the mystery just gets deeper. What about geography? Maybe being by the coast for trade helps. Nope, landlocked Switzerland is one of the richest countries in the world. Okay, what about population size? Doesn't seem to matter either. All the usual suspects, all the simple explanations, they just don't hold up.
And this is where we get to the Nobel-winning breakthrough. After sifting through all the data, all the history, the laureates found a single, powerful answer. It's not about a country's resources, or its location, or its culture. It all comes down to the quality of its institutions.
Now, when we say institutions, we're not talking about big marble buildings. We're talking about the rules of the game. Things like, do you have property rights? Is the legal system fair? Can you trust the government? It's all the systems that basically decide if it's even worth it for people to work hard, to save money, and to invest for the future.
Let's make this really concrete. Think about an engineer. In a country with good institutions, she can go to school, knowing her degree will actually mean something. She can start a business, trusting that the courts will make sure she gets paid for her work. Her success depends on her talent. But in a country with bad institutions, none of that is a given. Why would you bother investing all that time and effort if the system is rigged and your success depends on who you know, not what you know?
But hold on, this leads to that classic chicken and egg problem, right? Are good institutions the cause of wealth, or are they just a luxury that rich countries can afford? I mean, just because two things happen together doesn't mean one caused the other. To win a Nobel, these guys had to prove definitively which one came first.
So how in the world did they prove it? They went back in time. They looked at history, and they found this massive, and yeah, tragic, but for a researcher, a scientifically perfect, natural experiment, European colonialism. The different ways that regions were colonized turned out to be the key that unlocked this entire mystery.
And what they found was absolutely mind-blowing. They called it the Great Reversal of Fortune. Basically, the places that were the most prosperous, the most developed before Europeans arrived, ended up being the poorest today. And the places that were sparsely populated and less developed, they became the richest. It's the complete opposite of what you'd expect.
So, why did this happen? Well, it came down to two totally different colonial strategies. In rich, populated places, the colonizers set up what are called extractive institutions. The goal was simple: take their resources, control the people. But in places that were emptier, like North America or Australia, the goal was different. They needed to attract settlers. So they created inclusive institutions, systems that protected property rights and gave people political freedom. And here's the kicker. Those institutions stuck around long after the colonizers left. In the extractive states, a new group of elites just took over and kept the old, broken system going. But in the inclusive states, they had built a foundation for long-term growth and innovation that we still see today. Think about it. The US, Canada, Australia, they inherited those inclusive institutions. Okay, if you need one last, perfect, undeniable piece of evidence for this whole theory, we just have to look at one city that's literally split in two by a border.
Welcome to Nogales. The northern part is in Arizona, in the USA. The southern part is in Sonora, Mexico.
And we're talking about the same people, same culture, same food, same climate. The only real difference is a fence running down the middle of the street.
And the results of this experiment, they are absolutely night and day. On the US side, people have higher incomes, they live longer, it's safer, the government works. On the Mexican side, it's largely the opposite. The people are the same. The rules of the game they are forced to play by are completely different.
This right here is the smoking gun. It's the final proof. It's not about the people, it's not about the geography, it is about the systems, the institutions that govern their lives. The different institutional histories of the US and Mexico create this incredible divide, right in the middle of a single town.
Okay, so this all seems pretty clear, right? The answer is good institutions. So the obvious next question is, why don't poor countries just, get some? This is the final and maybe the toughest piece of the whole puzzle.
Well, the laureates have a name for this trap. They call it the vicious stalemate. It's a political problem. Even when a fairer system would make the entire country better off, the people currently in power are terrified of losing control.
So let's just break it down. On one hand, you have the elites in power who benefit from the unfair system. For them, changing the rules means risking their power and their wealth. On the other hand, you have the citizens who have absolutely no reason to trust that the elites will actually reform things for the better. It's a total standoff where nobody trusts anyone, and so the broken system just keeps going.
So, is there a way out of this trap? Well, their research shows that violent revolutions often just end up replacing one bad set of rulers with another. Historically, the most effective way to break the cycle has been through peaceful, nonviolent political change, where power is transferred in a way that allows new, more inclusive rules to slowly take hold.
And that leaves us with the ultimate massive question that this Nobel-winning work puts on the table. We know now that institutions are the key. But does that mean nations are prisoners of a history that was decided for them centuries ago? Or can a society actually make a conscious choice to change its own rules, to break that cycle, and to build a better future? That is the challenge this incredible research leaves for all of us to think about.